Hey guys, welcome back. It's Space Engineers Plus Me, episode 68. I'm Enigmius, and today we're headed to Mars. Last episode, we spent the whole episode fighting to get off of the Earth-like planet. When we finally got off the Earth-like planet, I was spent. I was good. I was done for the day. But we managed to get off the Earth-like planet into zero-G space, and all we really had to do was get the ship oriented towards Mars and go. That's what we needed to do. So in support of that, what I did since the last episode is I welded up 10 more gyroscopes, which made it a lot easier to turn the ship, much easier to turn the ship. A viewer pointed out that you can use the arrow keys to turn the ship faster than panning the mouse. I found that to not be the case, but it's something that I pass along in case it's useful for you guys. What I found actually works really well is if you hold down the corresponding arrow keys, say for example you want to turn the ship to the right, you hold down the right arrow key and then you pan the mouse to the right. The mouse is what actually gives the speed to the turn, but holding down the arrow key keeps the momentum between swipes with the mouse, if that makes any sense. So you can get up to maximum turn speed based on the size of your ship and the number of gyros quicker and easier if you use the arrow keys and the mouse in conjunction with one another. We were able to turn the ship, flying to Mars, face the ship in the direction of Mars, and then bring it up to speed with the normal thrusters. I was a little bit curious why we were getting the speed readout for the ship in kilometers per hour, and then I realized it's because it has wheels. It's a rover, technically, with thrusters, so it shows the speed in kilometers per hour, whereas if you're just using thrusters, it shows the speed in meters per second. So it's the same speed as if we were just using thrusters, it's just reported differently. So we got it up to speed with thrusters, turned off the inertial dampeners so that we could just hands off the keyboard and it would go in the direction that we wanted it to. And then we get to start messing around with the jump drives as soon as I figured out how to use them. And then we can jump 220 kilometers every 6 minutes. It goes 220 kilometers based on the size of our ship and the number of jump drives, and then it takes 6 minutes to charge the jump drives again and ready for another jump. Apparently you can jump early sometimes, maybe. I remember reading somewhere, but in our case, it wanted me to save up for 100% and then go. So as much as I would like to say that the trip to Mars was an action-packed adventure, it really was a case of hit the jump drive, wait 6 minutes, hit the jump drive, wait 6 minutes. 220 kilometers each jump for a total of 1,800 kilometers is what we had to travel to get from the Earth-like planet to Mars. Was over half an hour of jumping and waiting and jumping and waiting. So not exactly the most compelling method of travel. However, if I had added more jump drives, I probably would have been able to make the trip much faster. But I didn't. I had 4, and that's what I had, and that's what we used. So the next time we'll know better, we're going to incorporate more jump drives into our next ship build so that hopefully we don't have to do too many more of those kinds of extended treks. Now, my last jump put me almost directly in between Mars and its moon, which was kind of what I was hoping for, was something where I'd be close to both. And now it's a question of what are we going to do. So the first thing that I wanted to do was hop in the Spectre Omni and go take a look at the moon and go take a look at Mars. So that's what you'll be seeing, is footage of us on the moon and footage of us flying around over the surface of Mars. Very different from the Earth-like planet, very different from the Earth-like planet's moon. Mars's moon is basically, from what I could see, just ice everywhere, which is fantastic. As you know, we have a bit of a thing with ice and making sure that we always have enough. In our case, we don't have a pressing need for ice right now, but that will change. That's the one thing we know for sure, is that eventually we're going to build something with even more hydrogen tanks and even more hydrogen thrusters, and we're going to need more ice to fill them. But for now, it's just good to know that it's there in abundance whenever we need it. I didn't really find anything by way of platinum yet. I didn't spend a lot of time looking. What I did find was lots and lots of rocks on the surface of the Mars-like planet's moon that each contain a variety of different materials. The only material I for sure did not see yet, which is not to say it's not there, it's just I haven't seen it, is platinum, but uranium and all of the other metals available in these rocks that are scattered all over the surface of the moon. which is kind of neat. I feel like I was having a little bit of trouble with the ore detectors on the Spectre Omni. It doesn't seem like it should have had any trouble picking up what was in the ground in terms of ore deposits, not just the stones on top, but down in the ground. But it wasn't. I've got 2 ore detectors. They were both switched on. They were both transmitting on antennas. I don't know. Could be a bug. Could be something that I missed. Doesn't really matter. We weren't necessarily prospecting. We were just kind of exploring and satisfying curiosity. So that's something to keep in mind. But in terms of a place to go for ice, we've definitely got it in the moon. And in terms of a place to go for anything else, probably will be okay on the moon. But there's also Mars itself, of course, which is the first thing that is different from the Earth-like planets is there's no frozen lakes, which is kind of problematic when you've got a mining ship like the Atlas that pretty much relies on having a flat level surface to sit on while its mining activities are taking place. I'm not necessarily surprised that we don't have ice lakes on Mars, and I'm not necessarily surprised that we won't be able to use the Atlas for any large-scale mining, because the decision to build the Atlas was made when we were mining on an ice lake, and that was as far as our ambition went. Now that we're on Mars, things are a little bit different. I don't necessarily mind. I do still have the saved backup of the game so that I can finish the blueprints for the Atlas and get those out to the people who want to play around with them. That's definitely something that I want to do and would hope to have done in the next few days from when this video comes out. But in terms of not being able to use the Atlas on Mars, I can't say that I'm all that heartbroken. I love the idea of building new ships. That's kind of my primary interest in the game. If I build a ship and I use it for a few hours and then I never use it again, I'm usually okay with that as long as I've got something else to build. That to me is kind of the idea of progress. So we've got 3 projects actually that we're going to be doing, and they're probably going to be taking place alongside one another to at least some extent. But the first one that we're going to be starting in the next episode is going to be a space station that's going to exist where the Atlas is now, and it's going to act as like an intermediary location that's first of all going to have storage, processing, whatever you need for all of your space adventuring activities in one place, so that you can get there with a jump drive and the GPS coordinates. You can jump straight there as long as you can do the whole thing in one jump. The other thing that it's going to have is a shipyard, an interstellar shipyard, so that we can build large ships. We don't have to worry about the ground, the impact the ground has on the building process. But specifically, ships larger than what we've seen up to this point, larger than what I've been doing. So one of the things, after we get the space station established, not necessarily complete, but established, will be a new mining vessel. It will not be a rover. It will be a ship that can land on almost any surface. Obviously, extreme surfaces isn't necessarily going to be something that we're going to want to commit to. But if it's, as long as it's a reasonable surface, we should be able to land on it and deploy our mining rig, whatever it happens to be for this design, and gather what we need from that location. That's kind of the thing, is we're taking everything that worked from the Atlas and hopefully reusing it perhaps in a more refined way, and taking everything that didn't work as well as we might have liked and just getting rid of it. So that's going to be sort of the goal with the next mining ship. I don't necessarily want a fleet of mining ships that are basically extracting minerals all the time without us thinking about it. But I would like one that's a little bit more autonomous than the Atlas would have been, so that we can put it in place, let it gather what we need the most, and then go do other things, and then come back and check on it from time to time, as opposed to the Atlas, which would have been a check on it every 5 or 10 minutes kind of activity. So that's the second one. The third one, there's probably going to be after the space station and the mining ship are mostly done, if not completely done, is a weaponized exploration ship that we're going to take to the alien planet. And then once we get to the alien planet, we're going to turn on cargo ships so that there's things to shoot at, and possibly the NPCs that are on the alien planet as well. We'll have those guys turned on. So there's a little bit more going on than just building in gravity, because that's really all it is on the planets these days, is building things in gravity and making sure that you have enough hydrogen to keep your jetpack going. That's sort of the alpha and the omega of the survival experience. But there are certain things that we can turn on that could make it a little bit more interesting. So that's what we're going to be focused on. And in order to do that, we're going to build a ship that will support us in that kind of activity. And we're not just talking about building a ship and slapping guns onto it. I want to do some things that are a little bit more involved and a little bit more interesting. And the reason why we're putting that sort of at the end of the queue, so to speak, for projects is so that hopefully some of the bugs that are in the game will have a chance to get ironed out a little bit better, because things... I prefer to build in a situation where things are supposed to be working in a certain way, and they work in that way, and it's very consistent and reliable experience. It's a little bit more difficult and a little bit less enjoyable when they're supposed to work a certain way and they don't. Either they cause problems instead of working in that certain way, or they aren't reliable when they're working kind of sometimes in that certain way and other times not. It's one thing if you do something silly that wrecks your ship. It's another thing when something does something it's not supposed to that wrecks your ship. So I just want to be a little bit careful about what I'm putting my hitching my wagon to in terms of stars or things like that, that we don't jump the gun and put ourselves in a position where we're going to be miserable because pistons are still not reliable, rotors are still not reliable. Whatever we need to do, I just want it to be as close to possible for working as it can be, and then we're going to go and get after it. So that's sort of the plan, is space station, new mining vessel, weaponized exploration ship, head off to the alien-like planet with a little bit more of an NPC-driven threat. We'll do something there. I'm not sure exactly what, but it'll be a thing. It'll be a something. And then I've got some plans that I can't get into too much detail with because they're very preliminary and a lot of it is out of my hands. But when we're done on the alien planet, whatever we're going to do there, it doesn't mean the series is going to be over. It just means it's going to be time for the series to evolve. So hopefully we'll have it ready for something to evolve into, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So that's what I've been up to for the last couple days, is getting this ready for you, getting everything in position, and do a little bit of exploring. And now, next episode, we're going to start in with the space station. So if you want to be notified when I add that episode, as always, you can subscribe to my channel. You can follow me on social media. Links for social media in the information box below the video. Feel free to leave your comments and feedback. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.